If you don't go to church, it may feel like church is, kind of a private club. Jesus taught that God's house is for you. Jesus said, God's house of prayer is for everyone. Good morning and welcome to 755 Live, spring break version, actually in the car with my beautiful chauffeur, Tangi. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus said comes from Matthew 21:13 and Mark 11:17. We're going to read some verses around these passages to kind of do some context. Matthew 21, beginning in verse 12, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all of the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He said to them, "The scriptures declare, my temple will be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." Then from Mark 11:15 through 17. When they arrived back in Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out the people buying and selling animals for sacrifices. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. And he stopped everyone from using the temple as a marketplace. He said to them, "The scriptures declare, my temple will be called a house of prayer for all nations," or all people, "but you have turned it into a den of thieves." Now, no matter what you may have heard, this story isn't an excuse for anger. Sometimes we use that as an excuse. Well, even Jesus turned over the tables in the temple. And yes, he did. But he had been teaching in this same temple and other synagogues for more than 3 years. He also walked on water and raised the dead. Self-righteous anger is easy. Walking on water? Well, let's see you do that before deciding you're qualified to turn over tables in the temple. The real story here is, why did Jesus do this? What was so wrong that the Son of God, who never defended himself, actually went on the offense? This story is in all 4 gospel accounts. In the book of John, we get a little bit of insight in John 2, verse 17. It says, "Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures," after he had turned over the tables. "Passion for God's house will consume me." This was all about God's house, which was intended to be for everyone and to be a place of real worship, a place for all people, all kinds of people. But something was very, very wrong. Jesus called it a marketplace, and that it had become a den of thieves. The point is, convenience isn't sacrifice. There were money changers in this temple who changed the standard Greek and Roman money for Jewish and Tyrian shekels. This was for those who had to travel, that were bringing animal sacrifices to the temple. They would have to change their money because the temple would only accept one kind of currencies. And so a pretty big business was happening there just to make it convenient for people and also for profit. They were missing the whole point. The point of bringing a sacrifice was to bring your first and your best. God's house today is represented by the spiritual building that we call church. But it's not supposed to be a marketplace where we just offer worship to God based on our convenience. But it really has, in many cases, become such a business. Yeah, I know, I said it. It's such a business that many people far from God think church is all about getting money and that they are not welcome. Maybe we do need to turn some tables over in our own hearts. Are you worshiping God only when it's convenient? What is God's house, God's temple, God's people, the church? What are we really for? Is everyone actually welcome, or only people who are like you? Jesus said, God's house of prayer is for everyone. It's not about convenient sacrifice. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it would really mean a lot to me if you like it, if you share it, if you comment. I really appreciate all the support. Have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Have a great spring break if this is your time for a break as well. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.